Hello, my name is Alexa with Care Identity, and I'm really excited to be with all of you today and share the secrets to a high converting website. I have been designing websites for 15 years and specifically in the healthcare space since 2016. And something that I've always noticed in websites, the reason that websites may not convert as well, meaning you may not be getting as many leads or as much interest, is because sometimes there isn't this connection that should be built beforehand, before people even get on your website. So today I want to go over what are the key secrets essentially that will help your website convert better in the future. And so I have a PowerPoint that I want to go over with you guys. If you wait till the end, I do have a freebie to help you, either if you already have a website, what you can do to implement things today to make it better. And also, if you haven't even started your website yet, what are some things you should be thinking of when you are creating your website or hiring someone to create your website? And you may see me glance from time to time to my notes because there is a lot of great content I want to share and I don't want to forget anything that we're going to discuss today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. All right. So you should be able to see my screen. Your website is typically talking to your potential audience. So whoever that audience is. If your website is not making it easy for people to say yes, it's not doing its job. And what does that mean? When someone is on your website and they're reading the content that is on the website or they're looking at it and they're starting to make a connection with it, you want them to start saying a lot of little yeses, like, yes, this person gets me. Yes, this is what I need. Yes, this person understands it. Yes, this person apparently gets the results that I'm searching for, or that they've helped other people in a similar situation as me. And so in the person's mind, you want them to begin to say yes. And so from there, you want to think why that website really matters, because it's your first impression and most people won't meet you for the first time typically unless you've done some kind of in-person sales. But if you're mainly online, your first time, like your first initial, so to speak, handshake is when someone arrives to your website. And so you want to think of this like you don't get to sell them later. You need to begin that mini sales conversation now, the minute they're on the website. You want to really make that emotional connection. You want to start thinking about like, how can I connect with this person? And we'll go more into messaging in a minute. So I don't want to like give it all away, but just begin to think about like, who am I serving? How am I solving their problems? How can I connect with them? Many people begin deciding the minute they come to your website if they trust you. So slowly, is your website creating a trust? Is it creating this connection that says you are the right person for them to help them? And it's not really so much even about fancy design or pretty design. It's about guiding them clearly. So many times I see websites that are very unclear. They're kind of all over the place. There's no storytelling, there's no guiding. And so people either get really frustrated and they leave, or they get really overwhelmed by the website and so they click off. And so therefore the website's not converting as well because people aren't making a connection with the website because it's not speaking to them. So when someone lands on your website, that's their first hello from you. It's like showing up to a job interview. Are you dressed professionally, or does it feel like you just threw something together last minute? This is something I really like to explain to clients sometimes is, when you go to a job interview or you're like showing up, how do you look? How do you present yourself? Are you sloppy? Does your website look like it's dated? Does your website feel like you haven't updated it in years? Or does it just feel like you DIY'd it, but you really didn't take the time to really invest the time in creating it to feel more professional and make those connections? Or does your website feel like it definitely you invested the time, whether it was in somebody to do it for you or time yourself to create the website that feels presentable? And we'll go more into that as we continue the presentation, but I want you to really think about that. How are you showing up? Think of your website like that job interview and how it's presenting itself. If you're not willing to invest in yourself, why should someone invest in you? And that doesn't even matter what your service is per se, whether it is, whether it's that you are a clinician or a doctor or a therapist, or if you are a coach. If you are not investing and showing up, why would someone want to pay to invest in whatever your service is or your product is? And what that goes back to the interview. So I want to kind of tear something down real quick. Investment doesn't always mean money. Investment is also time. So if I always tell people two things, if you want to DIY your website, then you need to have the time to invest in creating your website. If you want to hire somebody, then hire somebody that's going to really understand how to connect with your audience. But either way, you really want to make that investment, because when someone pulls up your website, that's their first impression of you and what it is that you're offering, and if you are the solution to the problem that they have. So the main framework we're going to go over today is, for me, there are 3 core elements of a high converting website. Obviously, there's a lot little details in between, but I really want to focus on these 3 main elements. You have messaging, design, and imagery, and we're going to break each one down. So messaging, we're going to spend a big portion in messaging because honestly, again, going back to that topic about the mini sales conversation, you definitely want to begin to connect. People buy into or work with people they connect with or that they feel like that they can help them. And so messaging is about the tone and knowing who you're speaking to. So many times websites don't convert well because they're trying to speak to too many audiences, or they're trying to help too many people. And so they're not showing up as the expert. People are willing to spend more money and help when you're the expert. When you are trying to help too many people and you have too many hands, in several baskets, then people don't think you can really help them. And I learned this pretty early in my career. When I started making websites, I helped several different industries, and I still to this day can help several industries. But I realized that the minute I found my audience, which was healthcare, and I began to niche and speak to that audience, everything became easier. Creating content, figuring out their pain points. How do I help them? What is it that they're struggling with? What's keeping them up at night? All these things really help you refine your messaging and start building that emotional connection, because the moment they come to the website, they feel that connection, like this person gets it, this person gets me. And so because you may not get that sales call until after they've made a connection on your website, you may be missing out on those lead opportunities because your website isn't talking to them. You really want to think, what keeps my person up at night? What keeps the person that I'm looking to serve, the audience I'm looking to serve, what is their pain points? What are the results they're looking for? What are the outcomes they're looking for? Your homepage is your mini sales conversation. You're kind of guiding them, you're leading them through this conversation based on what they're interested in. And again, we'll go a little deeper into that. Focus more on the outcome than what you offer. I've realized a lot of people sometimes think, oh, this is what I offer. This is why it's amazing. This is why you need this. But you're not really telling them what their return on investment is. And what that means is, are they going to save money by hiring you? Are they going to make more money by hiring you? What is the outcome that you are selling? What is the solution you are selling before you even look into what the actual offer is? So yes, it's great to share what it is they're going to get, but what results you're going to get me, that's why I'm going to hire you. So that's what you want to think about when you're creating a converting website. Another thing, just like more design wise, when you're writing your copywriting, and copywriting is the text on your website, mix bullet points with short paragraphs. So we're in a day and age where people's attention span is very short, as you know. And so you want to make sure that you are making that connection with them. You have 2 types of people, I typically say, that are looking at your website. You have the highly analytical mind, and then you have a quick decision maker. Quick decision makers hate reading. I'm one of those people. That's why I make websites with a balance, because I also understand there's people that like to read every single thing on your website before they make a decision. So you need to satisfy that mind as well. But then you have people like myself that it's what am I going to get? What's the outcome? What are the bullet points, and what is the price? And so the faster you can take me through the sales conversation and answer my questions, the faster I'm going to convert. If it is too complicated or you have a ton of paragraphs, I personally, because I have ADHD and dyslexia, I do not want to sit there reading chunks of paragraphs. because my mind doesn't work like that. So you want to think when you create your website, you need to be able to satisfy the quick decision maker that needs the bullet points, that needs to get to the point. And then you want to write some paragraphs for the person that actually likes to read, that needs a little more in-depth, a little more of an in-depth sell, so to speak, a little more information of what it is you offer. And then you also want to use strategic CTAs, which mean call to actions, to lead people deeper. So another thing I notice on websites, especially if they're like DIY or they hire someone that doesn't really understand user experience, they typically do not embed buttons. So sometimes people might do like links embedded in text. I personally don't like that. Sometimes there's too many places leading to too many spots, but I do like, say you're talking about your general services, or you're talking about a quick paragraph about what you do or how you can help them. Let's say they're going through that website and they want a little more information about you first. You want to lead them there with a button. Let's say they quickly want to know the services and they don't really want to read your bio because they're interested already, but they want to know exactly what they're getting. Then you want to lead them to the services. And so you want to embed strategic buttons that are going to take them deeper into your website. Sometimes I feel like everyone wants to throw everything on the homepage. And really, you want to think of your homepage like your summary page, the generalities, to make the connection, talk about how you can help them, start building that trust quickly, and then start feeding them further into the website. Okay, so homepage messaging structure. So you have your headline, which is a pain point solution. So typically when I do my headline on the first part of the website, I either ask a question about a pain point that my audience has, or I will offer like a solution, like this is how I'm going to help you, right? And so then I typically do like a little subheading, like how you help them and what they can expect. You really want them, the moment they come to the website, to immediately know what it is that you offer. And then after that, you want to do a short intro paragraph. Because people want to do a lot of text on the homepage. And again, you're going to lose visitors because it's just too much. Normally the homepage, again, they're looking quickly to figure out where they want to go on the website. And then from there, then I'll have like general service overview. This is not the time to write every single service and every single offering. You want to give, again, the summary. Like if you have 3 offerings, you want to kind of go through like, this is this offering, and then this one and this one. So you want to guide them through them, and then you can add a link. If they're individual pages, you want to add a different link for each offering. If it is like a general service page, then you'll just add one button in the center where they can link to that service page. And so you want to guide them, again, because you don't know in that moment what is important to the reader. And so you don't want to make assumptions. And that's like something really big in sales in general. You never want to assume you know what they need. You want them to sell themselves, like walk through it. And that is a whole other lecture for another day. But keep that in mind, is like you want that person to sell themselves. You want to take them deeper through that mini sales conversation through your website so that you continue to build that rapport and that trust with them as they walk through it. This is another place where I feel a lot of people spend too much time talking about themselves. If I'm hiring you, yes, I want to know, like, obviously you're an expert in what you do, but I don't need your whole entire resume at this moment. If I want to read your resume, I can go to your About page and really see what are your credentials, which people may do, but people want to know what are your outcomes. For example, you might say, I have 15, 20 years of experience in XYZ, and I help my clients or my patients or whatever you're offering, but I help my blank with XYZ. And so immediately you're talking about, I have years of experience, and this is how I've helped multiple people with this. If they want to read more about your resume, or like, you know, where you went to school and like where you've worked and what you've done, there's a time and place for that. And that is on the About page, which then you'll add a button where they can read more about you if they choose to. Sometimes people want to read, obviously, your About, and there's some people that really just want to know how you're going to help them, how you've helped others, and what is your quick experience, like what is the quick overview of your experience. Then from there, if you have testimonials or any social proof of people that you have already helped, even if it's like a couple, if you have like 3, like, you know, people that you've helped, or like even if it's one like really good testimonial of somebody that you've helped This really helps build that rapport with people of like, oh, wow, they've actually gotten them results. And so you really want to add those if you have them. If you don't have them yet, that's okay. But it's just something that you can, again, add additional. If you don't have testimonials, if you've done any talks, if you've been on any podcasts, any other social proof, any other like ways to build authority of, what you're talking about and that is your specialization, add that there instead. So it doesn't just have to be testimonials, but social proof can also be like podcasts, that you've been a speaker, that you've been invited places to speak. If you could add links to them, sometimes you can add like logos of the places that you've been invited to or places that you've collaborated with, and you could add links either to those episodes or those podcasts. And so those are other things that you can use to kind of build that authority if you don't have testimonials and social proof. And then your final call to action, what that pretty much means is, so for me, how I envision this is like you have your main hero, they call it a hero strip. And so that's where you're doing the headline, subhead, and then sometimes I'll add a short paragraph there. Then from there, you have like maybe services, or you could swap the services in the about, but essentially they're kind of in that middle place. You can do like, this is a quick little overview of how I help people. And then here are my services underneath. And then you can do the social proof and the testimonials. And then you have your blast strip, which is like your final call to action, like book a call today, schedule a meet and greet, whatever it is. And so that is something to also keep in mind. From here, we're going to go ahead and go to design, which we'll talk a little more about calls to actions. And I think I want to say it now before I forget, maybe on this call to action, the easier it is for someone to book time with you, whatever that looks like. If you are offering, like, let's say coaching services, or you're offering some kind of like you're a therapist or you're that you're trying to schedule meet and greets, the easier it is for them to book time on your calendar with you, the more conversions you're going to get. And I've tested this in the past where I used to use contact forms, and it was always a pain to get a hold of people and call them. And I noticed when I switched to a system similar to Calendly, I use Calendly, but it doesn't have to be Calendly. But I noticed when I switched to something like Calendly, people showed up. More people showed up. I didn't have to like be calling them or texting them constantly, nurturing them, trying to get them to book a call with me. I realized when people pick a time that works for them based on your availability, they are most likely to show up. Not every time, but I'd say it definitely increases your opportunity in sales when you have, book a call, schedule meet and greet. If you also have like a button at the top, I always like in my website headers, I'll always put like book a free discovery call or book a call, book a meet and greet. The quicker they can get there, the also helps with the conversions. So I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to forget that. Okay, so now back to design. So we're going to start diving into design, and pretty much this is the perception of trust. Website is your outfit for the interview, like we talked about earlier. Like, how are you presenting yourself? How are you showing up? How do you want people to remember you? And then DIY is fine. Even though I'm a professional designer and I've been branding and making websites for 15 years, I think that some people DIY really well. It's just you need to make that investment in the time, like we said earlier. And so it needs to be intentional and polished. Don't just throw something together because you're trying to save money and not invest the time to do it. And that's what I tell people. You can DIY, but invest the time to learn to do it properly. Because again, this is how you're showing up to this interview. For example, I used to tell people, like, if you were to show up to like a dated website or a website that was just like very unclear and there's just like text everywhere and it looks like they DIY'd it, you're probably going to click off and go elsewhere. And then you might come to this other website that's extremely polished, looks well done, looks like they invested the time in their business and in themselves. And you know what? They may not even be as qualified as you, but because they showed up well, they got the opportunity. And it makes me think of like, that's even true in like jobs. Sometimes you feel like, how did this person get this job? I'm way more qualified. Well, that's because they probably presented themselves in such a way and knew how to show up and knew how to message and knew how to talk that got them that opportunity that you probably would have been more qualified for if you knew how to show up and how to message and how to speak to those people. So that is definitely something you want to think of. And then also your color and font should reflect your tone and audience. So we'll go into this a little bit more, but like depending how you want to be perceived, people don't realize like coloring and the colors you use, the fonts you use, all kind of send subliminal messages. I call it like the silent marketing team. If you notice, like even my backdrop here, like my pinks and my purples, and that's the same as my website here. And I did that because I'm a creative. I love color. Like I design, I'm an artist. I used to paint. I used to run a mobile paint studio. And the reason I bring all this up is because this is kind of a core of who I am, of being a creative. I probably could do a more serious brand, and I probably could have done a more like luxurious brand, but I wanted to come off and be perceived as someone that is creative. And this is who I am. I love color. And so you need to think of, how do you want people to perceive you? Do you want your personality to shine through? Do you want to present yourself differently? And it's okay either way. Just know, who am I speaking to and who is my audience, right? I can get away with the bright colors and the excitement and the energy because people are hiring me to create designs and websites and be creative. So that would be expected from me, right? So you still want to think, how am I going to be perceived and how am I going to make these connections? Okay, so this is where we were talking about colors. So this is just like, this is not law, and this is not like this has to be done this way, but this is just like a quick little idea, like just to give you a little feel for things. So if you want a more upscale and luxe vibe, you're going to probably most likely use like black, white, neutrals, or rich colors. What I mean by rich colors are like forest green, royal blue, like colors that are just like very, feel very upscale, right? Font style, you're probably gonna go more for like clean, elevated fonts that are a little more elegant. And then as far as if you want a more calm, therapeutic vibe, then you're probably going to go more with like soft greens or blues or neutral things that feel a little more nurturing, right? And then you might pick more like rounded, approachable fonts that feel like not so aggressive, not so unattainable. So like if you have like a very luxe vibe, I mean, you could still definitely do like a calm, therapeutic feel, but then it's going to feel more luxury. If you want to feel more approachable, then you might use more rounded fonts. So again, this isn't like has to be like exactly these categories, but I want you to start thinking how this all plays out with your brand. And I didn't want to go too far into colors and fonts and go through all this stuff because everyone's personality and everyone's focus is going to be different that is listening today. If you want like bold, high energy, you're probably use brighter tones, yellows, corals, teals. I'm using pink, purple, and then I'm using some soft blues to tone it down. Like you want to, if you want to give more of that bold, high energy, you also might use like strong fonts, like clean and modern fonts, but still like bold. Like, you know, I don't love this font, but just because most people might know it's like Arial Black, like in your face, very to the point, very high energy. It stands out. It's like, look at me, right? So you want to think about those things. What is the feel? I'm just going to throw this out there because I do give a lot of free resources. I do have a freebie on font pairings if you're interested in something like that. I also have a book that I highly recommend that I wrote that will help you start thinking, what is my brand? And how do I want to show up? And colors and fonts. And it goes a lot more into depth than that if you want something like that. So you can actually download that from my website. It is on there. So homepage is a journey to invite and guide and convert. So essentially what you're trying to do is, again, like I said, you're kind of guiding them through the website where they should go. People don't always know where to go. And you may assume, oh, well, I have a navigation bar. They can just figure it out. No. You want to, again, strategically place those buttons throughout the website. So if something speaks or resonates with them through this, they're going to go that direction and they're going to go read deeper onto the next page. So you want to pull them through. It's a journey. Don't overload the page. Link out to services, about resources, like wherever you need to lead them. Repeat CTAs throughout. So like start here, book a call, download a guide. Guides, I'm not going to go into it today, but like guides are great lead magnets to capture emails, to start building an audience. And also, it also is a way to start building authority and trust with people, that they're like, oh, they actually know what they're talking about, or they actually know what they're doing. So I definitely recommend that. And then clear navigation keeps visitors engaged longer. So if you are guiding them and you're not just relying for them to go on the navigation bar, then they're most likely going to be on your website longer. And that also helps Google, because Google's going to be like, oh, people are spending more time on this website. It must be a really good website. We're going to rank it better. So I want you to keep that in mind too. Like if you can keep people on your website longer, because they're engaged, because they feel like you're speaking to them, because you're actually having like a little subliminal conversation with them without them realizing it, then they're most likely going to want to convert with you and reach out to you. Again, a pro tip, you're not just making your website pretty, you're leading them. If there's anything you take from today, please remember this. You're not just making a pretty website, or you're not just making like a website. You are leading them through a subliminal mini sales conversation that they don't even know that they're having with you, because you are touching those pain points, because you're talking about how you're going to help them, and you're guiding them through your website to ultimately want to take action. So now let's talk about imagery. This is really important too. What people can think of when they're picking pictures or for their website. So visuals that create emotion. Choose images that match your brand palette. So you definitely, when I always jokingly say, I spend more time picking pictures for websites than I actually do designing the website. And that's because I curate. I really do. I think, okay, if I'm in a green color palette with neutrals, I'm going to pick pictures where people are wearing green and neutrals. I'm not going to pick people wearing reds and orange and yellows, because that is going to completely throw off the aesthetics of my website. And that's what makes the website feel custom, because you're pulling in the whole entire vibe. Avoid generic stock photos. What that means is stock image is okay, but don't throw in the yellow shirt and the green shirt when you're doing like, you know, a different aesthetics. Pick colors that are in that aesthetic and color palette. And then from there, I personally try not to use a lot of faces. I do try to do like a lot of diversity. I always try to think who the audience is that we're speaking to. And so I try to do like up close shots, hands, gestures, lifestyle movements, things where people can embed themselves. So if there's no face, but like there's kind of like diversity and color, and like people can imagine that it's them that's embedded in this, then they most likely will start making a connection like subconsciously as well. Like, oh, like this feels like me, you know? Also be mindful of the images should reflect who you serve. Like I said, if you don't want to use pictures with people, or not as many people, you want to kind of like switch it up, try to use images that create an emotional connection. So like if you do an empty chair because you're like inviting them to come sit down and speak with you, so to speak, you want to use like maybe some really pretty aesthetic image where it feels like a really a warm, inviting space. So you want to think of things like that when you're picking imagery. Don't just like throw some images together. Also, this isn't on here, but I definitely recommend, if you can do a branded photo shoot, which means wear your colors of your brand. Even if you have friends that pretend to be models where you're talking to them, or even just do like images of yourself, like as if you're like talking to someone, whether it's like you're on your computer, if you are, you know, writing in a notebook, whatever, you can go to Pinterest and get a million ideas of how you can show up. But I definitely would recommend being mindful of the imagery that you use. And then common mistakes to avoid. Don't make it all about you. It's about them. This is the biggest mistake I see people do when you land on their homepage. It's like, this is why I'm so amazing, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and this is my why. Unfortunately, people don't really care in that moment yet. They might care later as you pique curiosity, but they don't care yet, because they were probably up at 2 a.m. Googling, which how many of us are Googling stuff at like 2, 3 in the morning sometimes? I don't know, maybe it's just me. Because you're stressed about something and you're like, okay, like what if XYZ, I'm looking for this. And then this website pops up and you click on it. And then it's like, I'm so amazing. This is my background. This is what I'm offering. This is how much it is. You haven't even like connected with them. But if you're like, have you been feeling XYZ? Or are you tired of XYZ? And or are you stuck, lost? Like, are you frustrated? Like anything that starts hitting those pain points immediately when they open it, they're like, oh wow, that is me. The first yes, that's me. And then you go in like, well, I help XYZ. Oh my gosh, that's me. And then this is a little bit about me. I've been helping for 15, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever. I've been helping people, blah, 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 get this outcome. oh, wow, that's awesome. Like, I want to work with this person. Like, what else about them? And then you see how like that sales conversation begins in their mind and they don't even realize. And this has probably happened to you and you've never even noticed. So try to avoid long blocks of text with no CTAs, meaning don't leave out your buttons. Make sure your buttons go in the appropriate places. You don't have to put like a button on every single section, but if it makes sense there, put the button there to guide them to another area of your website, because they may be ready to continue down that path. And if you don't add a button there, they may just be like, well, where do I go next? So your job is to kind of guide them through. Most of the time people don't make an emotional connection or a story, so they don't really feel like they don't feel heard or understood. So most likely they may not want to move forward. And then the generic welcome messages or generic copywriting, be specific, speak to your audience, know who you're talking to. And then simple fixes that convert. Message first, design second. I didn't realize this, but until later, because I kind of always done my own thing. I have always used copywriting first, the text first, before I ever designed the website. And that's because I want to design around the copywriting, because I really want to tell a story with the design. And so I really want to make sure that we tell the story through the text and really make that, timeline, that journey. And then from there, I do the design. So think of that, like sometimes people try to fit the text into a template and they don't really spend the time. So I would say before you ever buy a template, before you ever DIY, if you do hire someone that writes copy, that's fine. They'll do it for you. Hopefully they'll understand. Make sure you hire someone that knows how to make emotional connections. But I would definitely start with the copywriting first and then go to the design. And then guide your visitors through the journey. Show up like you care, because you do. Invest your time or money, but invest with intention. Okay, so either one. And make sure you interview people really well to make sure, look at their portfolio, ask if they wrote the copywriting on the website. If they didn't, sometimes people will provide it for some. It'll be good to know, because if they are writing copy for certain websites and you like what they're doing and you feel like it's building an emotional connection, then that would be a good fit. Or I know that there are also copywriters you can hire separately, and then you can have a designer do it separately. We personally do it all, from logo design to copywriting to the website. So that's just something like we personally do, but you definitely want to keep that in mind when you're interviewing people. And then your website should reflect how it feels to work with you, your style, your values, and your impact. So this is really important too. People sometimes write, like I said, going back to the generic information, or somebody else wrote for you, but didn't really understand who you're helping. And so it just feels very flat. When people read your website, you want it to sound like you. You want people, when they read it and then meet you, they're like, oh, wow, this is pretty cohesive. And so it continues to take that relationship deeper. I have a lot of ebooks, and it's funny to me because I do get feedback sometimes like, oh, it really sounds like you. Like, I know you wrote this because it sounds like how you speak. And so that's really a compliment to me, because I want people to realize when they speak to me, it's the same as whether they're reading an ebook, whether they read my website. And so all the content's very cohesive and has a voice. Okay. I'm actually going to write a book soon about voice, your style, and then, like I said, your values and your impact. Okay, so just real quick, just a quick little overview. If you want to take some screenshots of the slides, you're more than welcome to. So you have messaging, what you say, and how you guide people with your words. Knowing exactly who you're talking to, call out pain points and showing the outcome, writing content that sounds like you, making the homepage a mini sales page, not a resume, and strategically placed CTAs so people know what to do next. For design, it's the look and feel. You have colors, fonts, visual tone, emotional vibe, and matching design to your brand and audience. And then for imagery, we have how your visuals make people feel and connect. So picking images that match your color and palette for cohesiveness. Avoiding generic stock, choosing motion over filler, using lifestyle shots, gestures, hands, partial faces, helping the visitor imagine themselves in the photo, reflecting your actual audience, women, men, LGBTQ, specific hair type, etc. So just really think, who am I serving? And do these images connect with them? And then choosing images that feel like an invitation, not a cold stock photo. And then the goal of your website is to make an emotional connection that guides people to take action. And here's your freebie. Oh no, the image isn't loading. Hold on. There it is. Let me see if I can present it again. The image is not loading. Okay, so let me just zoom in here. And if you can, go ahead and scan that code, and it will take you to a freebie. It's called The Secrets to a High Converting Website. It's a guide, 7-page guide. It's going to go a little deeper even than what we went over, but also like a checklist of things that you can consider. And also if you have a website that you can look over, or things to consider. So I'm going to leave it up, but that is time. We made it. We have 2 minutes to spare, so I'm kind of excited that we got through the whole presentation. And I'm just going to leave this up and you can click on it. And I do want to say, if you want a copy of that book, so when you go on this landing page, there's also this link that says, I want the freebies. And so the freebie that I was talking about is the brand personality one. I really recommend that book as well, if you want to download it. So I do have a few other things in the works that you can go to. And I do have my TK podcast. It's a little more geared towards clinicians that are in private pay practice. But I do have, if you go to my podcast Instagram, I do give a lot of freebies out that honestly, a lot of things I teach could be applied across different industries. I just choose to work with healthcare professionals. Thank you again so much. I'm going to leave this up one last time. Thank you again so much for joining today. My name is Alexa with Care Identity, and it was a pleasure being part of today's conference. And thank you so much for investing in yourself, the time and the money to come to today's conference.